public. Everybody looks like they're not public, they're regulars. Number 3, consider an act on request for adjustments to or relief from specific charges imposed by the district. Tax. Okay, consent agenda. Is everybody revisit?
I got a couple of questions.
I do too.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
First,
Mine's pretty simple. It's number 5, page 12. Excuse me, page 12. And really this is for Maureen or anyone. But I just looked back at the end of our former fiscal year for August 24, and our capital projects fund was at $334,400 plus $334,400 plus, and now it's $345. I mean, that's. Are we on track for any improvement? I mean, is that really a successful yearly advance from 334 to 345 in the capital fund? Sorry.
I'm not sure what.
Yes, the growth is the interest.
Yeah. And there's no other. I thought that because we adjusted our sewer rate, that was going to be able to pull up some of our revenues to affect this.
What page is that, Sharon?
Well,
I think the capital projects fund has been released onto the operating fund yet. I think that's still under approval.
I see.
It's still sitting in capital projects, so right now it's just earning interest.
So that is the interest that has gone up, right?
Only the interest, but
Since you're on the capital project, I have a question for Aaron. Do we have enough money to do the maintenance that we have? Because at one time we didn't have quite enough money to take care of any kind of maintenance.
Right now, we're still working within the budget that you set, so we're still on track there. We did do some ditch clean out that was, I believe, pretty close to the budget. So if we have any additional things come up, we may have to look pretty tightly at it.
yeah,
Question here, and that is mud 36 considered a distressed mud?
yes, it
I'd
is.
say so.
Yes. Doesn't that mean that we can get funds from the great state of Texas?
I'd have to look back. We had a consultant do that analysis, and I'd have to look back. There's either one other mud or 36 that was right on the edge of it. Yeah. Because they look at the demographics of the region, not your financial standing here. That's different.
Demographics. Okay, don't understand that.
How many constituents would be affected?
Okay, so we're distressed and we don't know if we can get money from Texas. Right?
Yeah, I don't know what money from Texas you're talking about.
Well, if we had a project, say we had a cave in or something like that. Right. We're talking about George's Coffee, and that is we're planning to do about $480 million worth of road work here in the Woodlands. Some of it is here in 36. But I would imagine we need to do the sewer work before the road work. Because how you do the road work, you tear it up and do the sewer work.
Well, I mean, I think part of the challenge is going to be just that the district has such a low tax rate that it's viewed as self-induced. Otherwise, taxing entities would be incentivized to under levy a process and then ask for money from the federal state.
Okay. So there's an out.
Well, we got $1.5 million in the bank as of today.
okay.
You gotta spend it on.
I probably you gonna figure something out.
We got a new budget. We got,
Budget use up most of that.
well, but we got a new budget coming up in 3 months. So
Okay, on page 7, I'm just curious on line 6, 9, 14, 15, which really are maintenance and repairs. Looking at, we haven't spent any money on water service maintenance, very little on sewer repairs, very little on storm sewer repair, and very little on the storm sewer maintenance. Is there a big block of expense expected sometime in the future? Or, why?
Some things are planned, some things are, we don't know when things are gonna break.
Okay, so, but maintenance, it hasn't broken yet, you want to maintain it. And a lot of stuff at the water treatment plant, this is a water treatment plant, but I don't want, you want to spend money on maintenance, you don't want.
There's nothing water treatment plant in.
Well, yeah, that's, I've retracted that, but what I'm saying is on our other infrastructure, maintenance is maintenance. It should be spent.
Yeah, I think we put, that is meter, I don't have the budget in front of me, but I think a bunch of that is meters, I believe, that we haven't built back yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I can see repairs, if something doesn't break, you don't spend the repair money, but
Sure, sure.
in the process plants, if I see somebody's not spending maintenance money, that's a red flag. Next question is on page 17. At what point in time do these taxes from 15 years ago get written off or something?
20 years for real property, 10 years for personal under the tax code.
Okay.
1 year. Real property.
Is that me or you?
Come on, girl. That's me.
Okay.
Shut this.
Like, I've got a ring too, and I'm like, it's not me.
Come on, baby.
Okay, those are the only questions I had that were in this section.
One other question for Eric. How many distress muds are there in the Woodlands considered distressed?
Us is it.
Is that? Okay, question for Sharon.
Yeah, I wasn't speaking in terms of a theoretical delineation of that necessarily. I was just speaking on the sheer fact that it's budgeted for a reserve of about 3 months. And that's not healthy,
That's not helpful. Okay.
the amount of structure that you have to deal with.
well, the statement says current operating, we got six months and budget's 5. And if it's,
It changes every month.
no, but
I'm talking about at the end of the year, it's budgeted for about 3.
Yeah.
So it goes up and down during the year. It goes up after taxes come in
Right.
and then it starts going back down. So.
Right.
But I had it,
Taxes just come in, right?
a few months ago.
Yeah.
It's starting to come back down.
Like a bank account.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay. Item 8, see the regular SDRA Woodlands Division report, including updates on operations, projects, and public outreach.
Can present or anybody else? No. I have nothing to add to the report unless you have any questions.
Question on page 31, the charts. Just for the sake of consistency, City of Conroe on the top is blue and the Woodlands is red. And at the bottom, the Woodlands is blue and the Conroe's red. Can we go with consistent colors perhaps?
They have been changed for next month already.
I'll have the, okay, somebody else but caught that one. Okay. Thank you.
That's good.
Make sure, I think my other questions don't come until much later.
Okay, I have one. And it is about it's page 20. Page 20, which speaks to water loss. And I know we've been doing a lot of checking on flushing things and I knew about the hydrants, but does it really require 6 million gallons to flush the water wells? And that was just 3 water wells.
It was, and actually it's higher than that. It's around the 10 to $12 million range because, or not dollar range, gallon range, thank you. Because we flipped through months. And so this was 3 well rehabs. And so we had to turn over volumes of water within the well itself just to make sure it was developed properly. Then we had to inject chlorine down in there, agitate it, let it sit, flush all that chlorine out, then take samples. We took the first set of samples and it failed. We took another set of samples and it failed again. So then what we did is the same process. We flushed it, put chlorine in, agitated it, flushed all the chlorine out, then all 3 passed. So typically it's not that bad. Usually it's in the 5 to 6 million range, but based on the failed samples, it did require this time.
That wasn't the answer.
Put it in the great scheme.
12 million.
Compared to the total. Yeah, and that's a good point that Ed was just bringing up. So it is water loss and it's, sad to lose it. But if we did use $12 million or 12 million gallons for flushing, grand scheme, you produce right at 6 billion per year. So it's a very, very small percentage of what you produce, but it is water loss.
I understand you had to do it to make sure that the chemical composition was balanced. But I was just like, what? I didn't notice that. And then one other question on page.
Pardon me. Do we still get charged for that? The wholesale cost of flushing those wells?
Not through the wholesale rate, but it is charged through the GRP fee, and Lone Star charges us as well because it did go.
The Lone Star charges, you have to pay the Lone Star fee and.
You got it.
Wow. And this is just a curiosity, because people are always talking about chlorinated water and some people are not even, they're outlawing it. But, I was just wondering.
Wait a minute.
No,
Other
you're
states.
thinking of Florida,
Yeah.
Fluoride.
Oh, fluoride. Okay, right. Chlorine, in a wastewater treatment plant, 3, they're like way over everybody else. Is that, I've never toured that property. Is it a huge, huge 3? It says that
different for me.
it's, yeah, we're like at 0.1 and they're at 1.02 and 3.63. I just wondered.
So wastewater plants 1 and 2 are over 1 million gallons a day. So their requirements by their permit is to dechlor it. So we put the chlorine in, then another chemical to pull it out. So it doesn't hurt the fish or anything. Wastewater plant 3 is less than 1 million gallons a day. So therefore there's no dechlorination requirement. We're just required to keep it above 1, but less than 4. And on a side note, what you're going to see is we've just installed last week, we just finished installing this real-time chlorine control device, which we did at wastewater plant 2 to kind of narrow those ranges a little bit more. So we want to keep it at the 1.02, just barely above, but we want to see if we can bring that 3.63 down, make it a little bit more efficient, save money and chemical as well. So we're trying.
I think I was thinking that we were talking about the chemical chlorine that was going up in price. And that's why I was thinking,
Right.
we're already there. Ugh.
Yeah, so that's why we put on this, what we call RTC unit, trying to reduce it down to plant 2. It's showing at least a 25% reduction. So. Mhm. That's all I have.
The questions.
I have one question. I didn't want, but I can stand corrected. Our minutes say that Ed Shackelford was here at the 36th meeting last month. But you made the presentation and I thought I saw Ed driving out of the parking lot when I arrived, but I could be wrong. I just wondering if anybody else remembered that.
You were called on that, not me. And I stand behind the director.
Yeah, I'm happy to say I was or wasn't. I don't remember.
I didn't think.
No bonus this month unless you can prove it.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Okay. Item 9. Consider an act on previous inflow and infiltration studies related to stormwater flow into wastewater treatment 1. And I want to defer that item. We had a significant discussion at the trustees meeting. And anyway, we need to resolve some things before we pursue that any further. In other words, we've had 2 different infiltration inflow studies, and and implementing the recommendations has been, anyway, I'm not quite sure what the word for it. Well, it has been troublesome, and there's been recommendations, but they haven't been implemented. So I think we need to defer that item because it's the money that we will probably need to spend in 36 at our next, during our next budget year. So before we get into our next budget year, we need to resolve that issue. So I'm going to just defer that, and we'll put that on the agenda for, we'll have a continuing agenda item and leave it on there for next time. Yeah, and then maybe the time after that. So anyway, don't have anything to present, but anyway, we did discuss that at the trustees meeting, since it's a region-wide mud basis, because we've got several plants that are several muds that are in the mud or wastewater treatment one service area. So anyway, we'll defer that and keep it on the agenda for next time. Receive the attorney's report number 10.
Yes, sir. Legislative session is barreling to a close, so it will end on June 2nd, a little over a week and a half. We're still, working on several pieces of legislation there, and we'll see how it shakes out. As usual, once the session ends, we'll have a comprehensive legislative summary for all of our district clients. We'll provide probably by your July 4 meetings. Usually comes out late June. Don't know, get the question sometimes about a special session.
Right.
Don't know if we're gonna have one called by the governor. We'll track that, of course. If there is a special session, it is limited to the items that he puts on. That's all I have. Happy to answer questions if you have them.
Any questions for Brian?
That's all you have.
Number 11, receive and act on the general manager report.
All right, general manager reports actually starts on 38. Just want to point out again, we're trying to continue to enhance the report to give you more and more information. If you turn to page 41, you'll see something related to 36, working with Kent and within the budget that we had. We went in and addressed some areas that had some siltation. And so those are 3 different areas where we addressed and cleaned up those ditches. And we continue to run the ditches throughout the woodlands to continue to identify the condition of the ditches, siltation, piping, etc. And so we're hopeful to finish that by the end of June in time to have serious discussion during budget setting this summer. So, but there's just 3 examples of some work that's been done recently. Wanted to remind you of the All Muds meeting on June 10th. Subject matter will be the AC waterline condition-based assessment that's been worked on by HDR. We've been working on it for almost a year. And so we'll hear all about the results of that. And we expect to have some information from them into the week prior to the meeting, so y'all can see it in advance of the meeting.
It's at the community center again.
Yes, 5:30, June 10th, 5:30, across the street, community center. Yes, sir. And we'll have dinner similar to. We'll fix the audio visual and sound, but we've addressed some things, but same place, same time. Direct your attention to the page 56, just a overall summary of the GRP committee meeting that the summary I gave to the trustees last week. You can read there kind of what was from, and this is the summary from the April GRP meeting, just the way the GRP meeting falls this month. We actually had the next one 2 days ago. On Monday. So to add to this, which I'll go into more detail next month in the trustee meeting, is that we reviewed the draft budget for 25-26, and then also the directors or all of the committeemen talked a little bit about finding ways to increase the utilization of the facility, which is kind of a first time that everybody agreed on something. So I don't know if it's a breakthrough or not, but well, I'm taking the positive out of it. We'll see. Because that was one of the goals that we had for the Woodlands. So,
Just a comment, I watched the video and I took it as a threat from the Lone Star Groundwater District representative to basically quell one of the public or one of the directors making a comment about groundwater. But it's very interesting that people need to look at that. You need to look at that video recording of that meeting, not the one yesterday, or was it yesterday? But anyway, the one a month ago, essentially the Lone Star Groundwater District representative threatened one of their directors. I called it a threat. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what they could do, but basically,
What's he talking about? There was groups represented there.
no. One of the
talking about one of the GRP directors.
GRP committee
Okay,
members, 6 of us.
okay.
So myself, your representative, and then Ben Slotnick is the other new committee person and representing municipalities east of 45 he's a PhD geologist. And you can read it here, but basically Lone Star came and publicly wanted to discredit what he was about to present, which was facts about what the aquifer is doing related to his wells in his district and the districts in his immediate vicinity. They doubled down on Monday and went further. You know, taking specific things from his presentation and trying to discredit.
Was that in the public comment?
No, that was an agenda item. Well, it was an agenda item to talk about it, but that's what they did.
Okay, well, I watched it and then I stopped at the public comment, so
Oh, it got
well,
worse.
anyway, people need to be aware of what's going on at Lone Star. And I don't want to get into the politics of that, but anyway, it's frightening to have a one public entity come in and threaten another public entity with, I don't know what the threat would be. Basically disenfranchise his credibility is what they were doing here. The guy's got a PhD in geology, so
He's on the committee. He's
he's one,
Elected by the, yeah.
he's
He's
elected.
on the east side. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's all I had. Kick it to John for communication update.
I do have I have a question for my fellow directors here. I mean, it's a comment and I either want to have it on the agenda next time or we can meet one-on-one and you can tell me your opinion, but page 49, I'm in the community working group representing you all. And I had toured the wastewater treatment plant #1 previously, but it was a couple of years ago, so I decided to take the tour again. And I have become more acquainted with the membrane technology now that I understand it's completely automated. And what we have now are so many nice checks and balances because our team at the treatment plant can do manual adjustments when we have water issues or storm issues. They can control more things than if we went to the membrane technology. So I believe I voted for that, in favor of that the first time before you guys got here. But I don't think I'm in favor of that anymore. So I would like to have some feedback on that at a future meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I just add to that, if once Corello presents the finished product of the analysis, I think that's probably a good time to bring that back up.
Few months away from that, it looks like.
If you have any technical questions on MBR technology?
We can have help with it.
All right, page 49 for your communications report. we're finishing up our second quarter, which means, but we've been focusing on water quality through that quarter of the strategic plan. Now we're going to transition to water conservation, shine a brighter light on that through the summer months. Aaron brought up the fact that a group was out there, the community working group at wastewater treatment facility or on Tuesday, May 13, touring that facility, getting some fantastic information. Very enriching experience, I think, for the folks that were there. Eric also provided a broad overview of the 4 alternatives to that group. They're going to get a deeper dive from Corollo on July 1, their next meeting. They'll go in a little bit more about their analysis to date. So they're learning more and more about that project in particular. We got a couple videos that are in process of being produced. And we are trying to get more video in our content. These 2 videos will be 2 to 3 minutes piece. One's going to be an overview of who we are, what we do, get some faces out there, humanize the agency. And then the second video will be describing our water supply, how our water comes from source to tap. And it'll be probably some combination of video and animation, follow the water drop type of thing. We've got more in that series in the future as well. And also on that front of videos, we hired a part-time social media specialist. Her name is Stephanie Williams. She began on Monday. She's going to be developing short video content for social media, reels, and just helping us in general with our social media, increasing our reach and being more engaging with our materials. So excited about that.
John, one thing with regards to that, we're talking about putting together a Woodlands series video on different things that are happening in the Woodlands, like golf and the trails and the hospitals, how they came here and all this kind of stuff. And they want to get with you to do something on water too, because that would be a great part of it.
Fantastic. I'm sorry, who's doing this?
George's Coffee, which is a group that we're members of, but they're about Bruce Tuff, Dan Hauser, and me. We're kind of leading the whole thing. So
Is that part of our tourism group? or
no, it
not
is
separate?
absolutely not.
Unofficial.
It is absolutely not. It is basically trying to archive the history of the Woodlands back when George Mitchell first had his eyes on it up to now.
It's an essential part of that. I'd love to explore that with them.
Absolutely, yes.
The only thing I wanted to point out was that outreach calendar of 52. It does note that we'll be out at Farmers Market this Saturday. We will not be, but we will be at the June.
What'd you say? You will be there?
We will not be there this Saturday. Calendar is wrong. We will be there in June.
Okay.
That's where I was planning to go.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Item 12, consider an act on authorizing WWA to evaluate the MUD SFDUE wastewater allocations for wastewater treatment number 1 service area. And I think Eric can expand on that. Basically, it's my understanding now that we are going to suspend any design work until we resolve the SFDUE numbers. And Eric you might expand on what you're doing as far as the database that you're using and all that.
Sure. So a few months ago, unrelated to this, but it'll work great for it. I identified probably last year that the software that was utilized and the database that was built for the 6th and final was not, it was obsolete. It wasn't usable for us. And so I had concerns that moving forward in the future, we wouldn't be able to project demands and figure out really what we had or needed. So we started building, I've had our GIS consultant start rebuilding the 6th and final in Esri GIS in our GIS platform, which is a database. And so we're going to utilize that to basically, and Six and Final was rebuilt, and then they've done basically a snapshot of today. And what we're gonna do is go in and review it, analyze the parcels, analyze the allocations for each parcel as it related to the Six and Final, kind of see where we are today, and see if where the numbers shake out. That way we'll be able to, identify if, the numbers that are being projected with the 7 MGD at the treatment plant are reasonable, but you'll be able to see it because we'll have all the parcels identified. So we'll look at the existing, and then we'll also look at the undeveloped properties that serve the wastewater treatment plant number 1 service area. So I need authorization to proceed with that.
And how long do you project that it'll take?
Probably a couple months.
Motion to authorize Eric to proceed.
I make such a motion.
I'll
Is there a
second.
cost involved?
Pardon?
Is there a cost involved?
Probably.
No, we built it with the current budget, and it'll be our time. Kim and I will be grinding through it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. One question about that. How do we end up on a monthly basis, say a structure gets built? How do we account for the SFDUs that go from planning to, from one bucket to the planning bucket to the actual in-use bucket?
That's why I built what I built, so we could do that. That was the reason, because we wanted to be able to keep track of it, and we didn't have that.
Mm.
And so that was the reason 6 months ago that I built it, so that we could project those going forward. So that when new ones come up, we can update the model, identify what was projected. Okay, no, this is what really got built. And it's either a plus or minus for that tract, and you kind of move on to the rest of the undeveloped properties. And then the wild card is going to be redevelopment. Because the reality is probably the biggest mover of the woodlands in terms of demand could be redevelopment. Now, redevelopment doesn't mean that there's an increased demand. It could be a redevelopment at a similar demand, with the new development. Could be, or it could be, something one story goes to something greater. I don't know.
I actually reviewed the redevelopment recently, which I hadn't focused on before. We had only one thing in our mud, but there are other muds that have quite a few branches redeveloped.
What I'd like to be able to do down the line is if, the developer comes to us and says, okay, there's this tract I'm interested, or I own, I want to redevelop it, but I want to go from 1 story to 20, or I'm just making something up.
Yeah,
I need to know that we even have capacity for that.
Yeah.
So now that,
Then charge them for
that's a whole nother deal.
it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, or you may already have the capacity. May or may not, I don't know, depends on the mud. So this will allow us to keep track.
Now that the woodlands is being sold, Howard Hughes is selling it, that's gonna become a big issue. We don't know what this new guy, what's his name? Sam Altman, not Altman.
They didn't sell it. He just took a bigger interest in it.
He's taking the whole thing over. But anyway, we don't know what he's gonna do.
So back to your original thing about design versus actual. So that new condo on the waterway on Six Pines, I'm sure it had a design, a design allocation, and then later this year we'll find out what perhaps the actual will be.
That's Metro Mud though.
But it's not. It doesn't. Yeah, it's Metro
Right,
Mud,
but it
all still all.
But
feeds
it
into
should have been in the sixth accounting. It should have been part of the capacity that was
Right,
purchased.
Right. Yes.
But
Well, there's
You got a
additional
good
capacities
point.
that have been purchased.
what they purchased and what they ended up. in.
I would love to see that.
Because we've got an interesting situation. We were talking about that the trustees meeting, Brian was a newbie, as he said. And we actually annexed that 4 acres over there. And they brought a plat to us and it had 27 single family units. And they end up that was when I was on the board. After I was not on the board, they built 60 or 50 condos.
Instead.
And it probably didn't affect the SFDUs because they're real small condos. These were, 2,500 square foot, single family houses. But here they went
Where was
from,
that track there, Kent, where you were on the board?
it's, where Grogan's Crest is there on, most people don't know, but Grogan's Crest, and then we annexed the next tract over. And their plat said that they were gonna basically put the same type of single family dwelling units in there, and they purchased, what was it, 27 or something anyway. So we annexed them, they paid us 50,000 or whatever it was, and then they end up in Albany built a condo complex over there, 2-story continuous condo complex instead.
Is it behind the trees?
No, it's right there it's Grogan's Crest, and then it's the next, where they built the 4-story apartments across the street? They're right across the street from those 4-story apartments, which aren't ours. That's Mud 19. But it's an interesting, after I saw that, I got to,
Thinking they could have.
and Eric says is, what I was afraid of is we don't have any idea, we don't have an inspector that goes in there apparently and says, okay, you bought 27 SFDUs, but guess what? Here's another, we're sending you a bill for another 50 grand because you actually built 50 units. And even though the units are small, 1 bedroom, some of them, and maybe 2 bedroom, and probably the total SFDUs that they're using is probably not a whole lot different. But it just brings up whatever you come up with is going to be a real positive thing, keeping track of what's going on.
That's our goal.
Yeah.
So on the question on the trustees report.
Yeah.
There's a line in there on page 56 that all MUDs except 36 have participated in the I/I reduction efforts. Do we have plans for that? The infiltration and,
Oh, yeah.
That was the
Info-
item we covered earlier on the agenda.
is it?
So we just.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the issue that supposedly we've deferred, but then there's a question about, I don't want to get into it
Okay.
tonight, but we'll discuss it, what we're gonna do.
Gotcha.
So that'll be in the next year's budget anyway, but we need to hash it out before, or what is that? September is the budget for us, September, October, yeah.
We approved in September. We'll be looking at it in July.
Yeah.
July, August.
So we'll cover it by then.
Well, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting if there's no other.
Wait a minute, we gotta get to the trustees report first.
God,
We're on item 13.
yeah, good.
Hey,
Sorry about
you
that.
must have a date.
I read.
You got a date?
Just read all this stuff all day long.
God love you, Sharon.
I think it already happened.
Okay, the trustees report.
Yeah.
Essentially, we did talk about I, but as you know, I've been a real had a question about not only the SFDUs, which I brought up again, and some of the numbers, but rather than beat that horse to death, I think Eric's got us pointed in the right direction where we're going to end up and have something to work with rather than numbers that, well, I got this number from the Chamber of Commerce and I got this number from Freeze Nichols. They had a confidential conversation with the development company and they said we've got 0.9 million or 0.9 million gallons a day of non-disclosed potential future inflow into wastewater treatment plant 1. So anyway, I think we're going to resolve that issue. The other thing is the I&I, which we talked quite a bit about, but we'll defer that and come up with a recommendation about exactly how we're going to cure that. The reason I went through this when I was on the board before is this peak flow issue has come up more than once. We went 5 years from 2019 to the last derecho, I guess, was 24 when we had the big, the last peak flow. So we went 5 years, but anyway, they keep wanting to design around this peak flow number. And you probably saw the last presentation where they had these huge 1 million-gallon tanks to put water in that may only happen once every 5 years. And of course, the logical thing is to prevent it from getting there in the first place, which is I infiltration and inflow. So the most economical thing, it appears to me, is to keep it from getting there to the plant in the first place, which is what our objective is. And the other thing, they were talking about. Anyway, hopefully we're going to resolve that in the next month or two about hopefully keep it from getting there in the first place rather than building all these facilities and tanks to store it for a day or two and go on and dump it into the plant. So anyway, that's essentially what we talked about. And I think we're 2 or 3 months away from resolving the SFDU, and hopefully before our budget, we can resolve on what we're going to do internally in Mud 36 about the inflow and infiltration that's been previously identified. Other than that, I assume we don't have any special recess.
We do not.
One more item. So
If you want to
thank you for putting the, starting on page 58, the articles in the back. Just wanted to point out on page 60, the top article and the bottom article are not one and the same. There's 2 different articles. That first one, I just remember reading them in the newspapers. The first one is incomplete, and the second one, it doesn't have a beginning. So if you look at the bottom, it's water continues on A3. And then, how did I say A3?
That's from,
Yeah.
from page 1.
Okay, from A1, but this is a different, this is desalination on the bottom. The problems with desalination and where you dispose of the brine, and the top one is about city water prices from Conrail. But they both go A3, but this is a different A3. May 13th on the top and what is May 13th on the bottom? I'll be on. Maybe it's the wrong part, but anyways, I remember the desalination article.
It didn't seem like it was congruent.
Yeah. But it is good information, and I read through this, live in the newspaper, but it's really good to see this. A lot of folks on the newspaper.
How's the SGRA lawsuit with Conrad doing?
They're talking.
Talking?
Probably.
Yeah, gentleman's agreement, talking.
That's all I say.
You probably read they're shutting down the whole city, Pete.
Yeah. That's for the capacity. I think we're good on everything else.
Okay, Sharon, now it's your
You make that
turn.
motion, Sharon.
Well,
That's your turn.
Yay, Sharon.
it's 52 and I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Which is always.
Second.
Yep.
Those favor aye.
Good job.